Yes.
Better than dude versus the Caucasians.
Go Toronto once or twice.
On there?
Looks like Matt just joined.
Okay. Matt and John, are you on there?
Yep. We are? Oh, the other.
Oh, you too, John.
Where was it? Underneath.
I think I changed the input on it or something. So, oops. Did you hang up? No, zero.
In the Cinder channel? So they're not having to meet up, they're just they're not there. That's like right now.
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people on it.
Yeah. Are you guys ready to go?
I think so, if you guys are.
Yeah, we're ready. We left the room.
Okay.
So, I suppose you want to talk about PrivSep first?
Yeah, let's start there.
Okay. I sent you the link to the patch yesterday. We're basically going to hardcode PrivSep and root wrap. And we have patches up to test it before springing it on Thierry. But it was sort of the least bad of all options. And I guess it basically signals that, PrivSep is replacing root wrap. And then we don't have to do anything in Taka. We don't have to force the upgrade script.
It has to be per project.
It doesn't have to be per project, so every time any project adds PrivSep, we won't have to go through this grenade upgrade thing. It'll just be baked into root wrap. So the patches are running through Tool right now. It's going to be 1 hour.
Did you figure out there was an issue with it not actually pulling in the right patch?
Yeah, we sorted that out, I think. It's several layers of like DevStack gate patches. But between Sean and I think we got it.
Okay.
If it works, we'll get it released, monthly minimum version for master, and we should be good to go. Assuming that like Oslo cores don't freak out about it. But whatever. Michael still is an Oslo core, so he said he would just plus to it.
Okay, so if that goes through, then we just need a new Oslo release, and then we should be able to move ahead with our integration.
And bumping the minimum for master for root wrap to pull this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So a few things have to go through yet, but then that sounds like that'd be a good solution then.
Yeah.
Hey Matt, have you seen my patch in PrivSep to change the default logging from warning to debug?
I haven't.
I put it up quite a while ago, and I haven't gotten much of any feedback, especially from Angus about it. Have you guys heard or seen from him recently?
I never hear from Angus about anything.
He never called you.
Yeah.
Have they seen what the logs look like?
Have you seen what the logs look like from PrivSep?
I think I opened up the bug.
Okay.
This is where fiber channel stack traces every time, right?
Yes. Or pretty much any call into PrivSep dumps a warning.
Yeah.
Even successes. It's not just failures, it's everything. Yeah, so I put a patch up in Percept to change that to debug because all of those failures are expected. But I also found another bug in Percept to start capturing standard error output and not dumping them out every single time. Because that's what PUtils basically does. It gives you the option to capture that and then policy decides whether they want to dump it out or not. And fiber channel warnings and errors, those are always expected on nodes that don't have fiber channel HBA, so you should.
Yep.
So, yeah, you'll probably start seeing a lot of those if you haven't already.
I found the
What was that?
I found the bug, so we should actually like track the patch against the bug. But
Yeah, okay.
so I guess the next thing would be John's Cinder API stuff.
Yep. Yeah, so I was curious, I guess the thing that I'm looking at now is fixing those couple of corner cases that the old calls don't work. But one of the things that I was thinking about last night after Dickinson's email, how would you guys feel about doing a feature branch on Nova and an equivalent feature branch on Cinder and working on it that way? And then targeting Okada opening to get it merged back into master.
I haven't read the email.
Okay.
We've got feature branches. Is there?
Basically, you just you send a request to infra to create branch, new Cinder attach or whatever for Nova, and then one for Cinder, and then they're linked together. You can set up infra to run tests and gate tests and things like that against those. And then once you get things sorted out and you get it where you want, then you can merge it back into master as one clean commit.
I'm just curious, why did you want the feature branch rather than just doing work in progress patches?
We can do it either way, frankly. The only advantage that I was seeing was if I went that route, what I would probably do is, rather than try and leverage the old commands and have that compatibility thing, I would probably just write all new commands. I would give them different names.
You're talking about for Cinder client?
No, I'm talking about on the Nova side. So on the Nova side and the Cinder side. So right now on the Cinder side, I introduced all new names, right? But I left all the old things in place. And then on Nova, I was trying to just go through and modify kind of strategically in places where I knew it would work. I would modify the code to just use the new API calls instead of the old ones.
Right. But
We can't do that,
we
right?
can't do that though.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of the problem. So that's what I'm saying. So I wonder if the better answer is to treat it as a whole new set of APIs on both sides. And as far as the feature branch versus Garrett review and stuff like that, I don't necessarily have a strong opinion, on which way you guys want to do that. I don't care.
I don't think the feature branch helps. We still have to have conditional logic on the Nova side, because if we're talking to Liberty Cinder, these APIs aren't going to be there.
Well, that's not true actually, because anyway, that's not the point though. That's not what I'm trying to solve, right? The thing I'm trying to solve is just a clean place to work on it and make progress outside of Garrett, but it doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, I don't really care.
Oh,
But we still,
just use your home GitHub clone. That's fine.
yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll do. That's totally cool, and just keep that rebased.
I always thought the feature branches still went through Garrett, but
Well, So they do, and that's the advantage, right? So it's still public. Everybody can look at it. Anybody can contribute and add and everything else. So you just treat it as its own long-lived branch that people can commit to and add to and work on as we go, and then just squash it all into one commit and move it into merge it into master.
The problem is that squash into one commit. We want to have everyone review that, so that would end up having to be split into patches anyway.
Yeah, a single giant patch is going to be left to get in.
Well, the idea is you guys would have actually reviewed it and merged it into the feature branch already. That's kind of the point. But
yeah. I don't know. I guess I would not prefer to do a feature branch.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. No problem. All right. Well, I guess I'll work back up on that and just sort of kind of chug along. And once O opens up, get it posted for review. I mean, that's.
Have you got like
Well, it is up for review, right? I mean, we can just. These are just work in progress patches. We can -2 the bottom patch, and you can hack on one.
Yep.
I've got the change up to DevStack to test the stack. There's a merge conflict with the Cinder client change. So that's blocking the testing of everything.
All right, I'll pick that up. I'll pick that back up this week and start looking at that and get the merge conflicts and stuff like that, and kind of pick up where we left off, so to speak.
do we have a write-up of the current state of the interaction, the new mode?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is there a write-up of the current state of the new interaction?
No, I can certainly do that though. So let me work on that. I'll write something up and get it published, and I'll tack it on to the commit message. And then we can track it that way.
Do we want to do?
Yeah. What are you guys doing on the Cinder side as far as like a spec, or do you? Hold on a second.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing what you guys are saying.
We left the room because it was too loud. Now you guys are out here. Yeah. So no, we're just yelling at people here on our side. Anyway, spec. I think you didn't want to write a spec because we wanted to
correct. Yep.
Going.
So I will go ahead and write a spec now because it looks like people are at least marginally okay with going this direction. So I will go ahead and do that, and we'll use that as our reference going forward. So I'll get a spec written and kind of outline where things are at, where they're going, put some status in there. On the Cinder side, I don't know, do you guys want to spec on the Nova side as well? Or do you want to share it?
I think it would probably be. I don't think it needs to be like.
It's not a big spec, right? But
Yeah.
it'd be good to have something. I mean, you can reference your spec.
Yeah, if you put something high level in there with any known gotchas or whatever, but it doesn't need to get down to like super detail.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Would that be okay, something on Launchpad that refers to the Cinder document and maybe some wiki page or Etherpad or whatever document where we sort out maybe some things that we identified on the go and things like that? Or it's still a spec? I mean, does it still have a patch and then stuff like this?
To me, it's you got to write it somewhere, and you're gonna have to write a spec at some point anyway. So I don't.
Okay.
I mean, the stuff that we found, like, oh, we should fix this bug before we move on, and that's cool. Just add the bug and do that, right?
Yeah.
But for the general, I think the thing is I keep getting lost on exactly the changes we're making. So just having that written down and like this is the flow that we're going to keep using, talking to like Liberty Cinder just to take a random point in time. And this is this will be the flow when we're talking to new Midcycle or Cata-cinder or whatever.
Yeah, right. We'll need to write down what the difference, how we're going to do the version discovery of the Cinder side, or the version discovery of Cinder from the Nova side, so we know which APIs to be calling.
Right.
Otherwise, I haven't gone. So I know we move. This removes all of these. The only Cinder call we make right now to get in the API is reserve, right? And then we cast off to the compute, and we do initialize and attach. So now everything happens in a single call on the compute, which I guess, whatever.
I think in the current example code, reserve is still a separate call, and initialize and attach happens in one call, which is the create attachment one. But if I remember correctly, the commit message says that the, I don't know, far future or mid future goal would be that even reserved should be part of this only one call. But John can.
That's correct.
Chime in here.
Nope, you're exactly right. Exactly correct.
Okay, cool.
I mean, so what we try and do is fail fast in the API where we can. So I quite like that reserve call, even if it's.
Yeah, and that's why I left it. That's one of the main reasons why I left it out. The other thing is it causes a lot of complications because we use reserve and unreserve for various checks and other places where we don't actually want to do an attach anyway. So, so yeah, leaving those two separate is absolutely fine. It also eliminates race conditions because those are long-running calls, right? So it's always a good thing. So the initialize and the attach can be long-running calls. So having reserve and terminate as calls is good.
Yeah, and with the Walter's patch, I mean the remove check attach one, we also identified some places where reserve was actually missing on Nova side, so we are working on fixing that as well. So some review attention on those patches would be pretty much welcomed as well, just to ensure that we really have reserve everywhere where it's needed.
Yeah.
Have we got a link to those patches?
Yeah, so I've got the Cinder API change, the Nova change. Walter's don't check Cinder volume status.
That's the one, isn't it?
That's 315789.
Is this one that we want to?
We said that we could do that as a bug fix.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if we pick anything for Newton, it's this one, right?
Yeah, correct. That's actually kind of a bug fix.
Yeah.
And it also fixes these odd issues as well.
Maybe we can take it.
So anything else here? I guess I've already got the DevStack patch up to test everything. We just haven't had a good run of it yet.
Did we get to the bottom of the flow for live migrate in the new world?
I don't think we checked anything besides normal attach detach. I mean, I don't think we ever thought through live migration and all the other Nova actions which kind of did some hack in order to not detach the volume or stuff like this. Live migration is obviously on the top of this list. So it might worth kind of brainstorming a few minutes about it, whether it can go wrong or not.
I remember that we were talking about live migrate, whether you should just have the ability to attach the volume in two places, effectively, but have only one alternative.
So, yeah, the multi-attachment is an option we talked about for doing that. Honestly, I think I'll need to get it. I think what we need to do is get what's there sorted out and working for the base cases, and then move in and actually look at the live migrate and figure out how that's going to work.
It's just the problem is we don't want to hit live migrate and have to rewrite it all again, right?
Correct. Yeah. No, I agree. But what I'm saying is the stuff that I've written right now and the way I have it set up, I'm pretty confident that I am not going to change that flow. So
Okay.
moving the control and the span of control and the status checking and everything else into Cinder, that's how it's going to be. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I don't think there's going to be a big problem with it. If there is, then I'm just going to have to make it work on the Cinder side, because I'm not doing the split between Nova and Cinder like we have today. I mean, that defeats the whole purpose, right? It just doesn't work. So
Maybe for the integration thing, didn't we talk about like update attachment or something?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I think it was basically to have 2 attachments, like during the thing that I'm thinking about is that we've had a remarkably similar conversation with Neutron and DBLR, effectively, because effectively you've logically got 2 attachments, or you've got 2 hosts where the port is kind of active, and because you have to have the routes in place in both places and then do the switch once the live migrate happens at the right time.
right. Is there? I was looking at that code though on the live migrate, and I'm not completely sure why we need to have them both there for that period of time. You know what I mean?
The thing is the hypervisor does the switch, so you have to have the connection ready. Like you have to have the iSCSI connection ready on both ends. Is it just
Yep. Yep. So okay, well that's that shouldn't be terribly complex. It shouldn't be difficult, especially when I get to that point. What I'll do is worst case scenario, we could also inform Cinder that this is part of a live migrate, so allow the next attach.
I think that's basically kind of what we're doing with Neutron, as far as I remember, is kind of saying, oh, by the way, it's being attached over here too, because we're sort of in the move process.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I get that. That should not be anything overly challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason I bring up live migrate really is because we seem to be going through like a whack-a-mole thing with different drivers.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's like, well, we do it this way, and then that breaks these drivers, and do it that way while it breaks the other ones, right?
Right. So I don't necessarily know how to make sure we don't have that sort of a problem in terms of drivers on the Cinder side.
I mean, as long as we pick one way which is the right way, and it's at least possible to be implemented by all the drivers.
Yeah.
I think what we do right now seems that way, but I don't know enough about the drivers we keep breaking to know if that's a problem, right?
Okay. Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, I think we'll be okay. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I mean, all of the iSCSI and fiber channel ones should work without any problems, and then I'll check with the Ceph guys and make sure that RVD is still going to work, but I don't see why it would be a problem.
Yeah, I thought it was the fiber channel ones we had.
Oh, yeah, fiber channel. Blah. Whatever. I'll check with Walt. I'll talk to Walt and make sure that we've got some test cases for that, and we can make sure that's not a problem. It should work kind of the same way as far as the attachments go. Because I asked this morning in the Cinder meetup, or I didn't ask, Sean asked, if there was anybody that didn't support, that their device couldn't support a multi-attach scenario. And it sounded like everybody said that wasn't a problem. So.
Except in the NFS meeting.
Well, NFS by definition is multi-attached all the time, right? I mean, under the
So we want to talk about test coverage.
Yeah.
I guess I should have. Should I go get Trenish? She's here because we talked about the multi-backend volume migration stuff that Scott's been trying to do. Where are you going? You gonna go get Trenish? All right, Dan's gonna go get Trenish.
I'm thinking the same, honestly, for live migrate. Like, how do we get live migrate into third-party CIs? I mean, it's quite a.
You have to.
The multi-host requirement is way non-trivial, right?
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have like at least one fiber channel covered with live migrate, like one iSCSI, one SEPI thing.
You're not going to be able to hear that.
All right.
Some of the third-party CIs are starting to do multi-node testing in Cinder. Storage CI is doing multi-node iSCSI right now with multipathing. So we actually do run live migration tests on like patches in Cinder. I'm working on the fiber channel one right now. So we'll have coverage for that.
Which driver is that for?
It's the pure storage drivers.
Okay.
But we're also, it'll get potentially a little bit of coverage on like the fiber channel zone manager and stuff too. Maybe.
So we were talking about. We're going to start talking about Scott's patch for volume migration retype with multi-backend. But you said we used to have.
We did.
But it was.
Well, John who removed it. I see his face right there.
Yeah, so John's on the call.
But it's, I mean, we used to run 2 LVM backends in the gate, and I don't remember exactly why we removed it, but we removed it a very long time ago.
John, do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure why it was removed, quite frankly. But we did run it for over a year. The difference was, though, is the way we had that set up, we actually ran both of the LVM volume services on the same node. So we used the multi-backend of Cinder to run all of it on the same node anyway. So we didn't have multiple nodes.
Yeah, it was single node.
Yeah.
Which I think is what Scott's been trying to do anyway.
So that code is out. That code is. I didn't know Scott was trying to do that, but that code is still out in GitHub. I mean, as far as setting that up.
You're talking about the DevStack part or the specific Tempest tests? You're talking about the DevStack part.
But it's all in GitHub, right? So history is never erased. It's all there.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to go back far enough to find it, and I believe the Tempest tests that we had, I can't remember if they were ever default enabled or if they were only for. Well, yeah, there was a flag enable multi-backend tests or something like that, right?
Yeah. So those Tempest tests are still in the tree, but what needs to happen is we need to have the backends, and if the backends are there, the Tempest test will run.
Well, I guess I don't understand. So just pull the multi-backend stuff that we used to have back into DevStack, and you're done. I mean.
Well, right. There's one patch out there that's stuck right now. That's not exactly the same one. I think the problem was that more of the plumbing got ripped out. I'm not sure.
It just got rewritten. I mean, if you want, you and I can work together, and I can.
Yeah.
I can help you put back in. That should be. What's that?
Whatever the path to get that back in, that's what's blocking.
Yeah, it shouldn't be hard to do. We should be able to just add it into Cinder backends, and just take a directive off of the local.conf, and you should be good to go. I mean, I still use that. Actually, that config still works because I still use it. I was just looking on my dev stack. I still use it today. So I deploy multiple LVMs and SolidFire all on the same dev stack run.
Yeah, I use the time manually. We just need to get it in the gate.
Well, so that's just a local RC update, right? So that's
just change it in DevStack 8.
Yeah.
Well, I originally had a patch up that did that, and then this one from Benny Kuparov was already out there. And that's kind of stuck because there's a question about which of two possible ways to do the parsing, I think.
That's a different patch. That's because they changed the Tempest config without actually doing the proper deprecation path. And now we're stuck because we can't configure Tempest properly in DevStack. And that patch, it's a list of strings, and he's got all of this convoluted logic to try to build the perfect string from Cinder instead of just writing it to Tempest.
Right.
And that's the issue with that patch. If you just change it to be a string pass-through from an environmental variable, it's done. And you can just push up a second patch, and we can move around that. Because that if it was just Tempest in any set with the environment variable for backends, the patch is done, and we can just push that through.
Okay, well, I'll work on that because this other one's not going anywhere, and it's clearly wrong.
Can you, hey Sean or Scott, can you send me a link to the patches you're referring to?
Yep, I'm putting them all in.
In the Etherpad?
Yep.
Okay.
And I put it in IRC. I just put something in IRC, Matt, which is the multi-backend Tempest tests. You had some comments which I addressed, and then you haven't gotten back. Just that's still going to be blocked until we get the Tempest or the config side stuff done. But if you could have a look at that, that's still going to need your blessing.
Sure. Which channel?
In Cinder IRC.
Well, you link the project config change, which is the job. That's approved.
Oh, did I get the wrong one? All right,
Yeah.
hang on. All right, sorry, bad.
I have it.
Just when you get a chance, that needs looking at.
Okay, I'll star it and put it on my list.
Oh, I remember why we quit doing that, by the way.
Was it the amount of space? I assumed it was we were too much space.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. It was a combination. Mostly it was because of the space, but then the other thing was that's back when we were still having all of the weird issues with the LVM errors on 14.4. And we did a whole bunch of stuff to actually use physical disks allocated to the instance instead of doing the loopback files. So we just, you remember?
It was those kernel lookups, wasn't it? Yeah. Where we just
So the weird LVM errors shouldn't be a problem anymore, but space might still be an issue.
I don't know. I think we've grown so much at this point that I'm not sure that space is still an issue or not.
Yeah,
I mean, at the time, I think we were pushing the limits of what we had for resources, but
yeah, and we also have a lot more varied cloud providers now, so I don't actually know what the backing disk is, like the minimum backing disk sizes anymore.
no.
When it was Rackspace and HP, it was easy. It was HP, and then Rackspace, and they used to flip-flop on how much disk they gave us, but now with
yeah, so I don't know if I can always pop over to Infra and kind of get some info from those folks on what resources we have and what they think of this idea.
Do we do sparse files or something?
You can pin jobs to certain nodes.
Yeah.
Right.
you can, but this is going to be running everywhere, right? Or are we adding a special job?
There's a job. Scott's adding a job.
Okay.
Because I think that was another thing with this.
Yeah, if we do special jobs, then it shouldn't be that big of a deal, right?
It wouldn't be a problem.
The other thing is one of the things that we should do anyway is we should probably flip these to use the thin driver anyway.
Yeah.
So, because then we could probably get away with like 10 gig, 10 gig allocations instead of 20 or whatever we're using now.
So Patrick East says he does have a dev stack patch up to switch the default to thin.
Oh, nice. All right.
Feel free to add that to the Etherpad here. I think it's in our testing already, maybe.
Yeah,
That's why I need to speed things up or slow things down.
The thin? Does thin speed things up? What?
So I guess I don't have anything else on that. I was just going to say another reason that the multi-backend stuff is, it's in Tempest, but nothing is testing it. There are no jobs that enable it. The only thing I ever found was like the EDK driver, but they're not even running tests.
Well, yeah, that's what we were saying. We used to run it,
Yeah.
and then we turned it off. And
So all this code is in Tempest, but it's,
yeah, but it was at one time, and that's why we landed it.
yeah.
We have a requirement that code has to be run to land it, but we don't have a continuing.
Minor detail.
So what was so Scott needed to write a DevStack patch or a DevStack gate patch?
So we need a DevStack patch to fix the configuration for Tempest. Super straightforward, and the project config might have done for the additional job, but we need some way for DevStack to be configured with multiple LVM backends, and
That's the project config patch.
yeah. And if that's already running with 2 backends, then it's just fixing Tempest in DevStack.
DevStack local configs and enable backends. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we just need to.
Which depends on this other guy's change that is existing, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he needs to fix.
You guys can't see what I'm pointing at on that screen, but it's where he says any set that, and he does this whole backend list where he's breaking the comma separation out. This is he's just playing games with a string. We should just pass the string.
Oh, this is just passing through.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to just pass it through, is there?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. Okay. So Scott, I'm adding notes to the Etherpad.
Okay. You're adding to the Nova Etherpad? Okay.
The only thing I could think of is that's also used for Cinder, and if the string formats don't match up, that might be what he was doing. But
Yeah.
it's weird if they're used in 2 places, we should just use one. We should maybe split the variables, but I don't see a reason to play games with strings and DevStack. That's just so error prone.
Yeah.
Why? It's bash. Do we? I guess I don't really have anything else.
I think that's all on our side as well.
So the federated resource guys, do we want to? There's a couple of guys here that want to talk about federated Cinder.
Where the UUID gets structure.
Well, where you,
Your mic.
with each BDM, we basically store which sender that BDM would come
Yeah.
What's the question?
So I was just wondering if we wanted to talk about this there's a spec that there's a couple of guys here to talk about for federated Cinder, where basically BDMs and Nova are namespaced to a Cinder deployment.
So you could have multiple Cinder deployments providing competing cost scales for block storage on a multi-vendor campus.
So I've heard somebody ask me about that before, and I've never quite understood how that would work or what that would look like. The reason being is, the federated example people use is always, Rackspace and, or let's just call it foo and bar, right? Two different service providers. But you can't, there's no way to actually connect foo's disk resources or Cinder resources to bar's cloud. Right?
I thought it was more specific. I think they were actually talking about like a university that's been given, like some department has access to these two Cinder deploys.
It's not just that, it's also a university where they have ultra high speed bandwidth to multiple other universities, in a small region, and they want to be able to consume large volumes of data from one or the other, but also the potential for like a co-located data center where you've got one storage vendor that rents a suite, another storage vendor that rents a suite, and leases storage at competing rates to a compute cloud in another suite.
Right.
That kind of
That's what I was meaning, but yeah.
Yeah. So I guess
work. And basically Nova has to gain the ability to talk to two different senders and record when we attach a volume to an instance from one of them, so that we know which one to call detach to, that kind of thing.
So I guess there wouldn't be changes in Cinder.
I don't know.
I think so.
So there wouldn't be changes on the Cinder side. So all of that stuff you could actually. I mean, you're talking about a couple of different cases. The first case, I don't see how you would even possibly make that work, or why you would want to. There's significant security implications there that people would flip out about. But
the security implication, I think, is addressed by federated Keystone, supposedly, where you have a trust relationship with that other provider.
Well, the problem that most people have is any exposure of the data network or the iSCSI network outside of the data center itself. There's enough concern about it inside of the data center, but actually joining those data networks across the WAN or across some other hosting pipeline, I think would be a little concerning. But
no, I completely agree with you. I think that this is a very purpose-built kind of situation, which is a little bit overly specific to some very specific situations.
We need to be more specific.
Academic, right? Just academic.
Right. So. I think we could make something like this work. I mean, the thing that you could do is you could basically abuse volume types inside of Cinder to do this sort of thing, and leave the connectivity and things like that up to the operator, right? So they can figure out how they're going to wire it all together. But if they can make it all talk, we can certainly do things to make sure that you know which Cinder has which volumes and how to request those specific ones, etc. I don't know how Nova, now on the Nova side, I don't know how Nova would figure out how it wants to do multiple Cinders.
I'll tell you how.
Okay.
A giant disaster.
Yeah, well, I think that may be accurate, but hey, who knows?
Yeah, I think the thing I was struggling with was, given you can have multiple Cinder backends, why you end up in a situation where you actually need multiple Cinders. But it's very contrived.
You would want, the reason you would want multiple Cinders is because there's a trust relationship, but not at the level of plugging into Cinder as another backend in order to be your consumer, right? You want kind of the per service REST API barrier as the thing between the providers. But again, I think this is a highly academic.
Cells in Cinder.
By the way, yeah, I heard that. If somebody actually really did want to tackle something like this and try it, I think a first step that might be reasonable to consider and might be interesting is a proxy in front of the cinders that just called the different A's, and hit it via availability zones or something like that, right?
That is interesting.
Yeah,
So that way it saves the train wreck on Nova trying to juggle multiple cinders and figure out that crap, because that would just be really hard for very little gain.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, yeah, I mean, not necessarily. I didn't mean a proxy. It's just that if you have such a trust relationship in place that you're okay connecting your hypervisors to their storage network, you may as well just rewire another
I think
cinder.
it's that I think the compute provider trusts this sender, and the compute provider trusts that sender, but the two senders don't necessarily trust each other.
Because they're different vendors.
Because they're different vendors, exactly. But the proxy in front is probably the same amount of isolation. The train wreck in Nova, to me, is that BDM is pretty much, may be contending for the worst batch of code in Nova currently. And just like, it's like, let's bolt on to a bolt on to a bolt on right now, and then adding this.
Hearing you say that makes me feel slightly better that it wasn't just me feeling that way, but yeah. I totally agree. But it's the code I really don't. Like,
and
it's bad because it comes up for review and you go, oh.
But not only that, like, it's the code that the fewest people. I mean, it's like in the running with the Neutron API code to be the code that is the most confusing, that the fewest people feel comfortable reviewing changes to.
You're forgetting about quotas.
Well, okay, quotas.
There's the three of them, right?
Well, I'm glad you guys are hitting all the topics that we've talked about so far.
Okay. Hey, yeah, I think Mark and I were talking about this earlier, and I brought up the proxy idea too.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like probably not something we need to discuss.
Yeah.
I think the proxy is the only sane thing to try if somebody really wants to. But
it's
Cascading probably implemented it already for them.
You could do it outside of IBM.
What did you say?
Cascading might have implemented it for
Cascading,
them already.
yeah, Tricycle.
IBM probably has a moving service to do this.
Tricycle, that's the thing. Shouldn't use that.
Tricycle.
There's like
Tricycle is easy.
I'm still feeling a tricycle.
Tricycle.
Dave, we have to vote on the TC application.
Okay, so I don't have anything else unless you guys have anything you want to talk about. We have a bunch of to-dos in the Etherpad, but they seem attainable. And we'll focus for Newton on getting Walter's bug fix for not checking volume status when we're doing check attach.
Cool.
Great.
Got some to-dos for test things.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And we've got to-dos to do that review.
Yeah. Just throw it in the file. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Yep, awesome, thank you.
See ya.
Later, dudes.
Did you just cut it? Is that why the sound got good? It probably dropped.
There are AV clubs benefits.
Yeah.
Our sound. Well, we've got some feedback that like it's too quiet now. I think they're willing to speak up. See, like this is terrible. I don't know. Are we? Anybody online now?
I am.
How's the sound for you, John? Just out of curiosity.
How is it now, or how was it there?
Well, we don't care about there. We all know it's terrible. I mean, like now, our normal sound is it?
Oh, it seems it's much quieter. It's back to the way it was earlier.
Oh, just curious. We have a good AV club, is what it sounds like.
You have a quiet room.
We have a quiet room.
Yeah.
Well-behaved participants.
Well, we have live streaming on YouTube. They don't even have remote attendees.
I wonder why.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that, that seems kind of weird.
Lunch?
Yeah, I think good spot to break for lunch.
So
John can get his horses out.
Yep. I will put everybody out here and then head that way. Meet you guys at about 1 o'clock, I guess.
Yep, let's start up at 1 again. Well, yeah, let's aim for 1.